as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, Feds not to option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for vote without violence. All we want for sin, all we want for sin. Vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for sin. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Now not the time we for better we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, Feds not to option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for vote without violence. All we want for sin, all we want for sin.
It's okay. Oh, good evening, our respectable listeners. I humbly welcome you to the program Election Coverage 2023, brought to you by TDN African Media. In today's exciting edition, we have a captivating topic on the elections, which is, have you read the manifesto of your candidate or political party? I welcome you all to join us as we delve deeper into the topic. Join us as I welcome our esteemed speakers, lawyer Emmanuel King and Mr. Aruna Kabo of the New Age newspaper. They will be sharing their insight on the topic. Good evening, lawyer Emmanuel King. Please have a moment to say hi to the listener out there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and good evening, our esteemed viewers. We hope that you follow this program today religiously and you make your own contributions via your text messages or whatsoever medium you choose to engage with us.
Thank you so much. A pleasure of having you. I am EZEKIEL Amadou KOROMA, presenting this program. We are going for a short break and we'll get back to you soon.
Till the end they say all we want for sin. All we want for sin. All we want for sin.
Do you already have the other speaker?
Now not the time we for better we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, Feds not to option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence.
All right, our esteemed listeners, we welcome you again to the program Elections Coverage 2023. We want to welcome Mr. Aruna, the editor of the New Age newspaper. And we want to go deeper into the topic today. Have you read the manifesto of your party or your candidate? And the topic, have you read the manifesto of your political party or candidate, is asking whether the person has taken the time to go through the manifestos of your supporter or your party you are supporting. By so doing, it gives you an eye-opener on what will be the goals, the vision of the political party you're supporting. So it's very good and it's necessary for supporters of these political parties to go through the manifesto of their leaders. And today in the program, our speakers will give their own insight on how a supporter will benefit a lot in reading these manifestos. We're going now, and one of the questions I want to ask Lawyer Key is that, sir, you're welcome again once more. And this is the topic of discussion this night. How do you, let me rephrase again the topic. Have you read the manifesto of your political party or candidates? You know, this, we've just received 2 of the manifestos by the SLPP and the All People Congress. The All People Congress, they just published theirs yesterday, and I hope supporters have get a glue on them. And I also believe many people have also read the manifesto. So this is our topic. One of the questions I want to ask is, what is important for voters to likely read through the manifestos of their political parties or their candidates?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think it is very, very key and important for the electorate to understand the vision of the aspirants. Okay, when we say aspirants, in this case, we mean the political parties and especially their flag bearers, because in a political system as ours, you know, they are contesting for the governance of the state through their respective political parties. And we also see independent candidates also contesting. Okay, every single one of these ones have a particular vision, a reason why they believe they are best fit to take on the reins of governance, and they believe that if given the opportunity, they can do better than the other than their opponents or the other political parties. So how does the citizen know that the plans of Party X is better than the plans of Party Y? Okay. I want to, even at this early stage of this program, encourage the electorate, the citizens of this country, okay, to imbibe the culture of electing people to political office based on policies. Okay, so if we understand exactly what this person stands for policy-wise, then we know that when he assumes this particular political office, he will be able to deliver. How do you now put yourself in this position? Is to understand their aims and objectives, their dreams, the visions, the goals, and all of these ones are set out in their manifestos. Yeah. Okay, so manifestos are carefully couched out documents for public consumption, wherein or in which we see the vision, the policies, and the intention of the political aspirants put in one document. It is done because they want to cajole, they want to convince the voting populace that this is what I can do, which is quite distinct and separate from what the other man has proposed. I believe my vision and my goals, my intention, and the way I intend on going about it is quite better and dissimilar from what the other person is offering. Okay? So what we need to do now as an electorate is to take our time to study these manifestos. Now, the manifestos have come out in good time before the elections. I think we still have about 23 or so more days, or 20 more days to the election, or thereabouts. So we still have time to study the manifestos of these political aspirants, of these political parties, to see which one of them has a clear path to national development. Because at the end of the day, when they assume political office, it is to serve us, the masses. And the goal for them serving us is to make sure our lives are better. The nation is seen internationally as a serious nation, but it is by the policies that when they assume government, the policies that they now drive, that the nation will be better for every citizen, that our international posture will be better. Okay? But all of these policies will be drawn from the manifesto, which is the original book they have used, or the original publication they have used to cajole us. Okay? So as citizens, we should not overlook these manifestos. They are sometimes really very bulky and voluminous, but we can see abridged versions of the manifesto. So for instance now, the All People's Congress have an 83 pages long manifesto, but the abridged version of the manifesto is just 10 pages. Okay. So you can take your time and go through the abridged version. When they say it's an abridged version, it means that they have summarized all the lengthy things they've said in the 83 pages manifesto to just 10 pages. And then you can just read that summary, and then you get a clear understanding of what they intend to do when they assume governance. Okay? But I think as a people, we are a tad lazy. We are a little bit lazy as to actually following up on the plans of the aspirants even before they assume office. So when they come to office, we don't really understand what they want to do. Even themselves, they take us for granted. Yeah. They say these people, they did not even read our manifesto. So they are not going to hold us to task. Okay? Yeah. So I believe we have a huge chunk of Sierra Leoneans that are educated, so they can go through these documents comfortably and read them. Those citizens who are not so educated can ask their kids who they've sent to school to read and explain. Okay. But also the political parties have a duty to make sure they explain the rubrics. They explain the nitty-gritties of the content of the things that they've put in their manifesto. Okay? So after we've read as a citizenry and as the electorate, after we've studied the manifestos, the next thing that comes to mind is to now pose questions as to how does these people actually want to go about implementing these fanciful things that they've put in their manifesto. Yeah. Okay, so the question of how is very, very important. And also the question of timeline. When do you intend to achieve some of these things that you've put in your manifesto? So we can only get to this point after we have studied the manifesto ourselves. Okay. We should not continue to allow our politicians to take us for granted because we are lazy. We are lazy because we do not make time to read what they've proposed that they are going to do. We should not just take the document on face value that, okay, the APC says our manifesto is tagged the One Nation manifesto for the 2023 election. The SLPP says our manifesto is tagged, what is it tagged again? They have a very catchy phrase for their manifesto also. And yes. So we give them the benefits of the doubt. That's because the manifesto is tagged in this particular way, this is exactly what the people mean. Yeah. Okay? Because it is tagged this way, this is exactly what they mean.
One people.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, but that is not the case.
Yeah.
That is not the case. We have to do due diligence by studying the manifesto itself, look at the key areas, and ask them questions as to how do you intend to meet the objectives you set out in this particular manifesto.
Okay. Lawyer Key, that's good. And if I could remember what you said, summarize, whenever a voter happens to read through the manifesto, I think the voter will figure out the kind of vision the party has or your candidate has. And also after reading through, you may not come up with questions or know how to ask your questions like how do you intend, achieving this goal you've stated, manifesto. So listeners, this is good, and Lawyer King has explained to us the importance of reading the manifestos. But maybe Lawyer King, not everybody of faith with this word manifesto, and our country, not the number of people educated are not many, and even those who are educated, they tend to doubt over this word or cannot understand this word, because the country we are in, we don't have the culture of reading, and so many people ignore reading manifesto. Maybe you can just quickly summarize what's the meaning of manifesto.
Okay, so in simple terms, a manifesto is a document put out by political parties or political candidates or political aspirants, or in this case, flag bearers of political parties, a document that captures their intentions, their policies, their vision for the nation when they assume power. Okay, so these are sorts of jottings of the intentions that they will now perfect when they come to power. So, for instance, now we saw in the last manifesto of the current president, President Julius Maada Bio, that he wants to do free and quality education. Yeah. Okay, he wants to do free and quality education. So when he assumes power, it takes from his manifesto and makes it into a policy. Okay, so once it becomes a policy now, it becomes actionable for the government to work on it. Okay, so there develops a program by government to make sure that that particular manifesto point, which the aspirant at the time promised the people in that document, will now become law. Yeah. And it will be actionable, something that, as a matter of fact, will be implemented across the country. So we now see the free quality education policy is now being implemented, even though we see it has a number of challenges, but at least it is being implemented and kids are going to school at the primary and secondary level and they are not paying fees. As to the quality aspects of that particular policy, it is a debate for another day. Okay. But when one is come to the free aspects, of course, to achieve something being free is quite simple. Okay? So this is why the people need to actually study the manifesto of these aspirants so that they can raise very good questions and ask them. So, for instance, now, you have said that you will give us free quality education. And the free quality education will cover primary and secondary school education. Okay? So how will you guarantee that the quality aspect of this particular program will be properly supervised, will be achieved? So you ask these questions so that the candidates can now elaborate on this particular fanciful points that he has put on his manifesto. Okay. So that you get a clear understanding that he himself, the candidate, understands this vision of his. He knows how he wants to go about it. Okay? So he cannot just come and sell you this particular idea or vision when he himself, he does not even understand how he's going to go about it. We will jokingly say that as part of the manifesto promise, of the present government, when they were actually campaigning, one of the things that they used to say was, we will fix the bread and butter issue of this country. Okay?
And I believe this 2023 and manifesto of the SLPP, this was the #1 priority they give in their manifesto.
Yes.
That's feed
Sierra Leoneans.
Yes.
So we see a situation where they said in 2018, that we will fix the bread and butter issue. But we are now in 2023, and most people are struggling to even to get bread, not to even talk of butter. Okay. So we see that they were not able to achieve that particular vision because we did not ask them, how are you going to make sure this your vision take hold?
Lawyer Key, let me come in that area.
Yes.
Now, the SLPP has published their manifesto, and they stated they are going to feed the country. They are going to feed the nation. And so, as somebody or as a voter or elector reading this manifesto, what would be the questions asked? The candidates.
Yes.
What would be the question?
If I were given the opportunity to ask them a question, my question would be quite interesting.
Okay.
Because, as a matter of fact, it is not the duty of the government to feed its citizenry. It is not. It is the duty of the government to create the enabling environment for the citizenry to be able to feed itself.
Okay.
Yes. So, in the first place, I will now make it categorical to them that it is not your duty to feed me, but to make the enabling environment, to create the space such that, to create the economic platform such that I am able to work and feed myself. Yeah. But if the government now tries to take that responsibility to come and feed me, it will make me a lazy citizen. And that will be counterproductive to some of the economic gains that we will want to see as a nation. Okay? So we see how other nations of the world are ruling. They allow for the private space, the private business space to operate. Yeah. They only regulate it by certain statutes which are friendly to the business community, such that the people thrive economically and they are able to take care of themselves. That is why we see in European nations and other advanced nations of the world, they do not care much about politics. You don't go around seeing people talking about politics like we do here in Sierra Leone. Because the man has to go to his business. He knows that the enabling environment has been created for him to thrive as a citizen. So it cannot now be the government's responsibility. When I wake up in the morning, he sends me a piece of bread and Ovaltine tea to eat and drink. No, it's not his responsibility. So that particular point, I will take them on and say, no, it's not your responsibility to feed me, but to create the enabling environment so I can be able to feed myself. Okay, so but you can only understand this when you study the manifesto properly. Yeah. Okay, and every single highlighted vision or intention as stated in the manifesto should align. They should interconnect with each other such that it becomes a unilateral vision. So the manifesto should project a particular vision. Okay, it should now be economic recovery. Okay, because Sierra Leone, what we actually need right now is economic recovery. From where I'm sitting, I'll tell you this free of charge. And we see the manifesto of a particular political party tilting in that direction. Whereas the manifesto of the other political party is now saying we have to strengthen the gains that we've made already. Okay, so as citizens, we have to analyze these things. Have we made certain gains that we want to strengthen? Yeah. Should we be concerned about recovering the economic points that we've lost as a nation? Okay, so when you analyze the manifesto, these things start to come out naturally. Okay. Because you are in the situation yourself. You are a citizen of the nation. Okay, so you understand that we have a rising price of fuel. We have a rising price of commodities in the market. So when they bring the manifesto to you, and when you have analyzed the manifestos, the questions come out naturally because you yourself, you are in the situation.
Yeah.
Okay? So you now know which questions to ask them because you understand, you feel, you've seen what they proposed. So you now ask them, Mr. Aspirant, are you sure you would be able to meet point XYZ in this particular timeline that you gave to us? Okay. How do you intend to do so?
Okay. Thank you so much, Lawyer King, and our respectable listeners. This election coverage 2023 program you're listening to, you can send in your message to our Facebook page and the YouTube, or you can call on the number that appears on the screen to give your your input on the program. And again, and Lawyer King, another question: how does reading the manifesto helps voters to make informed decisions during the elections?
Yes, I know that in our context we have voters who have already made up their minds. Okay. That I'm going to vote for party X and I'm going to vote for party Y.
And some of them did not even get a clue on what the manifesto says. So,
for the purposes of electioneering process, that is what is called voting demographics. Okay. Okay. So when it says what a demography is a segment, silos of different people. So we have the first-time voters. Okay. Yes. So that is a demography. We have the youth. Okay, that's a demography. We have women. Okay. We have the educated. We have the uneducated. So these are different sets of voters. Okay, different sets of voters. Then, of course, these different sets of voters, the manifesto should be able to cater to each and every one of them. Okay. When you are developing a manifesto, it should be able to cater to each and every one of them. So the uneducated or the illiterate voters or electorates, you have to make sure that they understand the content of the manifesto. They cannot understand the content of the manifesto by reading it because they cannot read. Okay. So you have to develop programs for some of your your party operatives to now go down to them and explain to them the key points and how you intend to achieve these key points of your manifesto. Okay? So we have the first-time voters demography. Okay? You have to cater to them because for most of the first-time voters are those transitioning from secondary school into tertiary institutions and XYZ. So your manifesto should be able to develop something that caters for that particular set of voters. Okay? So all of these different demographies should be able to know that there is something in this manifesto for me. There is something in this manifesto for me. Yeah. So this is now how they are convinced that, okay, because this particular political party has said that first-time voters who are now going to university for the first time, in their first year, they will not pay any university tuition fee and other charges. Wow. And this is how our government will go about to secure funds to make sure we subsidize for that. When the first-time voter reads that aspect of the manifesto, he now understands that, oh yes, this particular aspirant wants to cater for my needs. Okay. Because we know we have very difficult economic debilitation in this country. Everybody is struggling. We have people who are qualified to go to universities, but they do not have the economic means to do so. Okay? So if we now have a situation where an aspirant proposes that I will pay your college fees, I will give you government grants, as long as you have X, Y standard of grades during your university period, I will do so, I will do so. Then that particular first-time voter is now excited. This manifesto looks good, and this aspirant has actually kept a slot for me in his manifesto. Okay? And you will now ask him, how are you going to do that when you assume power? And he explains, and you are convinced You say, okay, I am going to vote for this particular candidate. We have to develop this culture in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Because we cannot truly understand the nature of men, especially politicians. We cannot understand their nature. But the only way, the only thing that comes close to understanding them is through their manifestos. But it should not be the manifesto alone. Your proper understanding of the manifesto as a citizen and the questions that it raises and the response to these questions should now be of utmost importance and urgency to us as citizens of the country, especially the electorate, because not everybody in this country registered to vote.
Sure.
Some people, even after they've registered to vote, when they saw the ID card, they said, I'm not even going to collect my ID card because it's substandard and XYZ. No, that should not concern you. Collect your ID card, exercise your right of franchise. But before you do so, make sure you understand the person that you are going to vote for. Because, like they say, your vote is your life. If you vote the wrong person with his wrong policies, our nation will go back like 15 years. And then someone else will come and start fixing the problem all over again. We are not making any gains.
Yeah, sure.
We are seeing progressive nations of the world where they have a very high rate of education. When they go to vote, they vote on policy basis. They vote on the man who has the best policy. How can we know the man who has the best policy? It is when we study his manifesto. Because it is in his manifesto that he puts his vision, his dreams, his plans for the nation, and how he intends to execute these plans.
Okay.
Okay? So I will continue to encourage everyone, whatever demography you are, read each and every manifesto. Read it in the context of our current state as a nation. Okay? It is not a secret that we are one of the worst economies in the world right now.
Sure.
So read it in that context in the first place. Who is going to provide economic salvation for this country by what he has inscribed in his manifesto?
Yeah.
Okay? Do not follow the fanciful and flowery superfluous language in the manifesto. No. What you need to do is to pay attention to the key points that will solve the problems of this nation.
Yeah.
But never forget to ask the question, how do you intend to go about to achieve these fanciful things that you put in your manifesto?
Okay. Thank you, Lawyer King, for that clarification of the question. If I can able to pick out something you mentioned, that voters need to read the manifesto in the context of the current situation of the economy. It makes sense because I think from there you'll be able to ask the correct questions. Because if you are faced with the problem, then you will know how to ask the problem. And again, one of the things you mentioned about the manifesto is that reading the manifesto alone cannot give you a clear understanding of it, except when you are able to ask questions and the candidate's response or gives you an answer, then you can know the true nature of your candidate or the political party.
Yes, this is why we see in other progressive nations of the world, especially in advanced democracies, before they go to the general elections, a political debate is staged between the main political parties. Sierra Leone is not a nation in isolation of the world.
Exactly.
We are part of the global village, and we should copy international best practices. Okay, we saw in our last election there was a presidential debate where everybody went and explained their vision, and we made a choice. We chose a candidate who is now leading the country. Now we want to see another debate because the political cycle has now tilted towards general elections.
Sure.
And because of that, these new aspirants or these aspirants who want to continue should now come and tell us, first of all, what he did with his previous manifesto promises.
Okay.
Because there should be an assessment of the previous manifesto promises. There should be an assessment. Okay. And you can only do that when you understand the manifesto. That is why I love this particular topic that you chose today. Okay. Okay. As the electorate, if we've studied the manifestos of these political parties carefully and keenly, then we would know that a government has passed or has failed in terms of the manifesto promises that they made to the people. Okay, there is the Institute of Governance Reform, the IGR, that does the assessment of presidents in this country. They've done so for the last 2 election cycles. Okay, so the reports they put out for the erstwhile government, okay, so the incumbent government right now, is the fact that they could not make up to even 43% of their previous manifesto promises.
Okay.
Yes, so they were able to come to this conclusion because they studied the manifesto. They looked at the main points of the manifesto, what this government was able to achieve in that particular manifesto and what they were not able to achieve. So as citizens, we should not only wait for the civil society to do this assessment for us.
Okay.
We should be able to do it for ourselves. Okay? So let us please talk to the institutions that organize debates for all political aspirants across the board. There should be mayoral debates. Nobody should run away from the debates.
Sure.
There should be presidential debates. Nobody should run away from the debates. Because it is only when you come and sell your ideas to the people that they will understand that this man knows what he's talking about in the first place, and he knows exactly how he wants to implement these nice things that he's put in his manifesto.
Okay. That's right, Lawyer Key. Like you're saying, there was a situation wherein the president is claiming that he has completed his manifestos, and now listeners are getting you right from you that there is an organization that do assessment, and the man is not up to 43, like you mentioned. You know, so it's good. Listeners, it's good voters to read through the manifesto of your party or your candidates. So I want us to move to other question, and like you mentioned, you did mention some things, but this is just specific so that our listener can understand this question clear. And how does what are some of the key components or promises typically found in political party manifestos?
Yes, this is also quite interesting. For the purposes of our context, that is the Sierra Leonean context, we almost always see the economy featuring heavily in these manifestos, because it may seem like we have not been able to shake the economic course that we have as a nation, because the policies put forward by the ruling government, or whosoever is in governance, has not been able to make our lives better economically. Okay, so we see every election cycle, someone will come with a major point in their manifesto as to addressing our economic needs. In the previous manifesto of the SLPP, it was fixing the bread and butter issue. Okay? So that was when they were in the opposition. Now we see the opposition now saying they will fix the economic problems that we have, or make an attempt to do so. Whereas what features majorly in the manifesto of the ruling government is to consolidate gains made in their transformative efforts, the things that they've done for the nation, how they want to consolidate those. Okay? So as a citizen of the country, you need to ask yourself some critical questions with regards the key points that they are making in these their manifestos.
Okay.
Okay? You need to ask yourself some critical questions. The manifesto of the ruling SLPP talks about consolidating the gains. So if I was in the position to ask a question, I will now ask what gains? Because as a citizen, the first thing that concerns us is the economy, and the sound footing of the economy. That is the first thing that concerns us. Because all the other things hinge on a very firm economy. If we do not have a firm economy, it matters not what other beautiful thing that you achieved. Okay, we now wake up every day. We see the exchange rate of the dollar between the leos is changing every day in the favor of the dollar, every day. So you cannot now come to the electorate and say we are consolidating the gains that we made, when our number one priority is the economy. As a people, I believe I speak for the huge chunk of Sierra Leoneans when I say our number one priority is our economy. Because if you fix our economic problems, I will not go out now and pay a keke or bike 10 leons to take me from St. John to PWD. The keke rider himself, he does not actually wish to charge you that much, but he's going to buy fuel at 21.5 leons per liter, which previously it was way less than that. Okay, so you cannot now come and say, I want to consolidate the gains that I've made, when, as a matter of fact, 5 years ago from now, all of these things were way less than they are now. Our lives have not been made better economically, and this is our chief concern. Okay, so in your manifesto, you should now say, it is quite interesting. In your manifesto, you should say you are looking for more ways to improve on the economy. But you cannot come and tell us that you want to consolidate on the gains. Because in that respect, you have not made any gain at all. In that respect, you've not made any gain.
Okay, thank you so much. And listeners, as you view the program or watching us live at TDN Africa Media, we want you, if you want to be part of this program, you can send in your comment on our Facebook page and the YouTube, and then you can have your say on the program. And we want to connect with Mr. Aruna Kabo, and also to get his own view on the topic this evening. Hello, good evening, Mr. Aruna Kabo.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome to the program Election Coverage 2023. You can say a hi to listeners watching you.
Good evening, listeners.
Okay, Mr. Aruna, I just want to ask you a question. Of course, our topic of discussion is how you read the manifesto of your political party or candidate. This is our topic of discussions, and the listener wants to know actually whether you have read the manifestos of the SLPP and the APC, and tell us what differences will you see in these two manifestos, then the voters can learn from you.
Okay. First of all, before approaching this question, one thing I will want to make clear is this topic should not just be limited to having read the manifestos, but rather having read the manifestos and also understand them. Because reading is not just limited to you just reading. It also has to do with understanding what you have read. And for me, having gone through the manifestos, of course, I wouldn't say because mind you, we only have them recently, which to me is very much unfair to electorate, because manifestos should have been out before this time. So in other words, to give the people the opportunity to read some of these promises and digest them properly, in a better position to inform the decisions. But imagine in a situation wherein these manifestos are now being published in the 11th hour, so to put it. So tell me, how do you expect people to go through them and understand them better and make informed decisions? And of course, talking about whether if there are differences also, of course there must be differences. But however, when you read the two, you begin to realize that there are not much differences, because you see that they are all speaking or talking the same language. For example, when you read through the economy, you realize that there is not much of a difference. For example, they are talking of youth employment and the likes and all the rest of it. So it tells you much has not been done.
All right, thank you. And the other question is, how does the manifesto of a political party can actually reflect the ideology and the policies they prioritize?
Adil?
Are you getting me, sir?
Hello? Pardon?
I asked a question. How does the manifesto
Yes.
of the political party can actually reflect their ideology and the policy they prioritize?
It is simple. The only way that can is by performance. You understand? For example, if you tell the people, for example, in the New Direction Manifesto, which they are talking about consolidating gains and accelerating performance, and under youth employment, the president has made a promise that in his next, if he gets re-elected in his next 5 years, that he's going to create 500,000 jobs for youth. So the only way that can reflect what he has said is to see that happening. For example, if you promise that you are going to handle the economy, for example, when this present government promised that they are going to fix the bread and butter issue, which to Sierra Leoneans resulted to an insult today as we speak, because that has not been done. And the very minister who made that promise, also on 98.1, insulted Sierra Leoneans, quote unquote, by telling people that I not blame Saloma get Labo, I not blame them. When I don't bel food and talk anything. So some of these things. So it tells you that most often than not, at the end of the day, they do them. So you see, so the only way to do that is by performance. That is the only way. There about it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cabo, for that answer. I think let me turn to Lawyer King to also have a response on this. That I hope you must have read the two manifestos and of the APC and the SLPP, and maybe what are the differences actually have you seen in the two? Because Mr. Cabo is kind of saying there are some almost similarities in the two and manifestos, but what is your take on this?
Yes, previously I had mentioned the key difference between the two manifestos, and this has to do with the incumbent governments believing that they actually did some very good work in their past 5 years, and that they want to consolidate on this particular good work that they've done. And so they've now put forward a vision for the consolidation of that particular good work that they thought that they've done. Okay? Whereas for the manifesto of the APC, we see a situation where they believe that we are in an economic crisis, and every single rubric of their manifesto is geared towards economic recovery. and fixing the economy and making sure that we develop policies that will strengthen the economy such that it becomes sustainable and shock resistant. Because the argument over the years has been that during the tenure of Ernest Bai Koroma, we had the Ebola, we had the mudslide, XYZ. So it was an argument that because of these reasons, our economy collapsed. Okay? So the SLPP will now say, during our tenure, we had the COVID-19, we now have the Russia-Ukraine war, and because of that, the economy is not doing so well. Okay? So what the APC manifesto is now saying is we need to develop some strategies, some policies to make sure our economy is shock resistant, so that when we face these kinds of pandemic or epidemic, we are able to withstand economically these tragedies. Okay? So that is a key difference that we see between the two manifestos. And as that is exactly what I anticipated would be the case. Because the incumbent government will not come and tell you that I did not do well. So sure. I will now look forward to economic recovery. That will be a case of shooting myself in the feet, okay? So I will be the one who will be negativing my message. So it was anticipated that they were going to say, we are consolidating on the gains that we've made. We will make sure we continue to develop the economy. We will make sure we continue to support our school-going program. We will make sure the human capital development programs that we do, we continue to support, you know. Whereas we see a completely different message from the APC in the sense that we want to go to economic recovery because we believe that the country is in a bad economic footing. So that's basically the difference between the two manifestos.
Okay, so thank you, Lawyer King. And listeners, we want to go on a short break, and we'll come back soon. And remember, you listen to election coverage and can have your say by sending your comments in our Facebook page and the YouTube. And you can also call on the number you see on the screen.
Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. Till the end they say, all we want for sin. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Now not the time we for better, we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, that's not an option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. All we want for see. Vote without violence. All we want for sin, all we want for sin. Till the end they say, all we want for sin. All we want for sin, all we want for sin. Now not the time we for better, we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and
welcome back, our respectable listeners. For you to participate in this program, you can send your message, your comments in our Facebook page and the YouTube page. And you're listening to the election coverage event program and coming to you CDN Africa Media. And so we continue our programs, our discussions on how you can be able to benefit once you go through reading the manifesto. So we want to connect with Mr. Kabo, Mr. Aruna Kabo, the editor for New Age newspaper. Hello, Mr. Kabo.
Yes, hello. Hello.
Yes, welcome back.
Hello.
Just from a break. And hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. So we continue our program, and I want to ask these questions. How can manifestos of a political party influence a voter turnout or and support? Now we have the two manifestos out,
I'm
the
not
SLPP and the APCs.
the
And
volume.
how can
I'm not
these,
getting you clear. Volume
at the
is
end of the
too low.
day,
I don't know why.
give way for a turnout of voters or support from voters to like cast their vote for a particular party?
Hello.
Yeah. Do you get my question? Hello? All right, Lawyer King, I think you've had the questions. Actually, for the fact that we've received the two manifestos from the SLPP and the APC, we want to know how this can bring a turnout of voters or support.
All right, okay, so we know traditionally that both political parties have their support base, okay, which is almost always constant.
Sure.
Okay, so by our political bifurcation, we have the Northwest, which is the stronghold of the APC, and the Southeast, which is the stronghold of the SLPP. I don't see a case in which the manifesto will be able to convince those hardcore party stalwarts of these two political parties to change their mind and support the other side. But we will not tire. We will continue to encourage people to be policy driven, especially when they want to cast their ballots for whosoever is going to lead this nation forward. But it is also my estimation that we have a few number of citizens, electorates, who are on the fence, who are looking for the right policies to convince them to cast their ballot. Okay, so I want to encourage these sets of voters, this particular demography, to be able to read thoroughly the manifesto of these two political parties and see which one serves the current context that we have as a nation. Because it has to be contextual. I am stressing on this point because we are not doing so well economically as a nation of the world. We are part of the global village, and the human capital index keeps coming out. And we see that as a nation, we are not doing well as compared to other nations of the world. Okay? So that in itself is a minus to us as a nation, because when our people go outside, they are not respected by other citizens of the world, because they say you are coming from a very poor country, or you are coming from a donor-driven country. Your country is not doing so well. Okay, so we want that narrative to change. How can that narrative be changed? It is only when the country as a whole is doing well economically. Okay, when we see certain advancements, when we see certain technological developments, when we see certain infrastructural developments, all of these are actually captured in these manifestos. All you need to do as a citizen is to read these manifestos, and you will see all the good things that are inside. Okay? Like I have said, we have those voters who vote in block. They, as a matter of fact, they have decided they are not even going to listen to news.
right now, they are not going to listen to anything. They are just going to vote for their palm tree or they are going to vote for their son. Okay, but we have those voters in the middle who are still on the fence. I encourage you to please read the manifestos and see who has the best plan for this country going forward. Who has the best plan to develop this country? Who has the best plan to turn our economic situation around? Okay, that is the person that you want to cast a ballot for, because once your generation comes to an end, the next generation comes, which will include your own children. And you don't want your children to inherit a battered economy. You don't want your children to inherit a police state. You don't want your children to inherit a country where the rule of law is not respected. So, you don't want your children to inherit a system where even the court systems are not fair. You don't want your children to be born into a country where when they ask for their rights in court, it's not given to them, it's given to the man with the deepest pockets. You don't want that kind of a system. And you can only change that system by the power of your votes. But your vote should be an informed decision. And it can only be an informed decision when you study the manifestos of the political parties. Then you know which one has a better plan for the country. But you should also be mindful of the fact that we are very brilliant script writers. Some people can write very brilliant scripts, okay? But when it comes to time for implementation, they cannot do it. Okay, so you ask them, after studying their manifesto, you ask them, how do you intend to go about making these things a reality? How do you intend to implement these things for the betterment of the country? And if they can convincingly explain to you and you see a clear path, these are the kinds of people that you want to vote for, such that we see economic growth in our country, we see infrastructural growth in our country, we have a very good leader that have the nation at heart, and all of these goodies will come if we pay keen attention to the manifesto. And I believe the people who are in the middle, who are still on the fence, are a very good number of people that can swing the votes to either political party. Because I have stated that we have people who vote en bloc for party A and we have people who vote en bloc for party B. They are not going to change. But the people who will decide the election are the people who are in the middle, who are still sitting on the fence, who will now say, I will cast my vote for this particular political party because this party's manifesto is better than this other one. He is proposing policies, his vision, his intentions are better than this other one.
Okay. And in as much as you highlighted those who are party loyalists, and maybe you can tell listener that what will be the consequences of voters not reading these manifestos?
Yes, so when you don't study the manifesto, you are going to vote blindly because you don't know what the man has planned for this nation. Maybe his own plan is to just come and reap the country of all our mineral wealth, of all what is in the coffers. Take it all away and go, because he does not have a very cohesive plan. His plan is not properly structured. And so, if it's not a very good plan, it will leave certain gaps for bad people to exploit. So, when you put these policies in your manifesto, you have to be able to show how you intend to execute them. And in executing them, like for instance, in the last political debates that we had, our current president said, I will now try to stop the leakages. So he identified that we had a leakage problem in the public service. Okay, so in the execution of their functions, those in the public service, they are what they call the drainage. Okay, yeah. So our resources, we are now passing through these leakages.
Sure.
Yes, they were not going to the consolidated revenue fund. Exactly. They were passing through these drainages and these leakages. And we, the people of the country, did not benefit from the consolidated revenue fund. But these private individuals, these personal individuals, they benefited because there were leakages. So our present president, or the erstwhile president, was clever enough to say, I will make sure that I block the leakages. And so people wanted to hear something like that. Yes, the leakages should be blocked, because if the leakages are not blocked, our revenues in the consolidated revenue fund will go to places they're not supposed to go to. Okay? Yeah. So that was very, very clever. He identified it, he explained it, and people say, okay, yes, this is true, this is the case. But when it comes to implementation, it became a serious challenge. It became a serious challenge. So we need to ask them, how do you intend to block the leakages? Because you cannot say you are blocking the leakages when you are only going after past government officials. That is recovery of those who have taken from the consolidated revenue fund and converted it into their private use. When you are blocking the leakages, you should do it with members of your own government, because they are now in charge of the system.
Sure.
They are now in charge of the system. Okay, so you have to show us how, you have to convince us. Absent that, your plan is not good. Okay?
Okay, that's
so
good.
The people will benefit a lot if they study the manifestos of this political party.
Okay, and in a situation we are in, is there any situation we are in, like we have 2 manifestos now being published by these political parties? Is there any situation we are in at the end of the day, or when someone has gone through these manifestos and they end up seeing the 2 of them are not making sense and are not making sense at all? What I mean is they are not matching to the current situations. And so what exactly the voter will do? Because currently we have 13 political parties who are going to contest for the presidential, and we've just received 2. And these 2 are the key political parties. And I am a voter. I'm a voter who read these 2 manifestos. But at the end of the day, I find out that all these 2 political parties are just saying the same thing, and they are not even ready to implement when they were voted in. So in this situation, what a person can do?
It's quite a tricky situation, because even though we have 13 political parties, the other 11 political parties are not viable. They are not viable. They are just, I don't know their exact intentions, but because we are supposed to have political plurality as provided for by the Constitution, well, everybody,
their intention is to become president.
Yeah, well, everybody believes that because the political space is open,
yeah,
they can now express their political interests, which is a fine thing. But if you must do so, you must do so with all level of seriousness, because we will now see a situation where some of these political parties will not even have pooling agents in some some polling stations in the provinces. They will not. And yet they say they are contesting a presidential or general elections. They will not. So the PPRC should make sure that they meet all the basic requirements before they are registered to run for political office in this country. I think we play too much in this country. Because, to now come to your question, if we now analyze between the 2 main political parties and we find that they don't provide the answer, we should now look for a viable third force,
sure,
that we throw our support behind and say, okay, yes, you have not been able to provide the answer for us. So now we are going to a third force that we've not seen yet in this country, that has not had the opportunity to hold on to the reins of power in this country. We will give them a chance. Okay? But all the third forces in this country, they are playing. They are playing. You will see them for one election cycle. By the time the next election cycle comes, they have aligned with one big political party. And they go into oblivion. They kill themselves. Yeah, we've now seen a situation like that. The NGC was a very potent third force in the last election. They showed some semblance of seriousness. Okay? But now we come to another election cycle, and they've aligned with the ruling SLP. And now they've shot themselves in the foot. So if you are not looking for a third force to support, will you consider the NGC? You cannot consider them because they've now aligned with the holding government. Okay? So the people don't have much of a choice in this regard because the two major parties we have, they are established. Okay? And they have not been able to produce what we are looking for in their manifestos. Who do we now turn to? So he's receiving a complex case for me because I understand that the other political parties are not so strong. If even we give them the reins of power today, say, okay, we've now voted for you, please leave this country, they will be confused because they don't have the proper structure to do so. Some of them don't even have regional offices. We have only seen 2 manifestos from the main 2 political parties. We are not even hearing of manifestos from these other small political parties. Sure. We've not seen it, we've not heard. Sure. It only goes to show that they are not serious, they are not making much effort to endear themselves to the voters. Okay, so now, if I was a third force, I would now challenge, say, okay, they put out their manifesto, this is my own manifesto. Sure. I will go to media houses, I will try to push myself and say my manifesto is better than the 2 manifestos. Please, people, come and compare between the manifestos that they have and what I have put forward. But we've not seen anything like that. It's as if we don't have other political parties existing in this country. So the people are now perennially caught up between the 2 major political parties, whether they put decent manifestos forward or whether they do not. What can the people actually do? It's a tricky question.
Yes. Lawyer King, that is another question and pop up from their explanation. So what do you say, what is the relevance of manifestos in our country? Because looking at we only have 2 political parties that are serious, like he put it, to the other political parties, that are serious, but in a situation, all they presented to the people are not serious. So what do you say, what is the relevance of manifestos in our country, Sierra Leone?
Yeah, so I like the way you put the question. So you now gave me the context, in our context in Sierra Leone.
Yes.
How are manifestos important? It is also quite tricky and complex to respond to this question because it is traditional that people don't vote by the manifestos of these political parties. They don't. But we should launch a campaign to make sure that people are policy driven when they want to vote. Because you cannot say, I want to support this man and not understand what the man has to offer. The man has to convince you, this is why it is politics. A politician should be a philosopher. This is what Plato said in his work, The Philosopher King. Okay? A politician should be a brilliant person. A politician should be smart. He should not be someone who does not understand what he's about. We cannot take a mediocre and make him our leader. No. We should take someone who understands, who is brilliant, who is smart, who is almost genius-like. Because you are going to attend to all of our challenges as a nation. They should wake you up from your sleep and say, we have a problem in Bo now. What should we do? You should be able to understand the dynamics of what is happening in Bo because you are very smart up in your mind. It's because we don't follow some of these concepts that have been laid down by philosophers since. That is why we have some of these challenges as a nation. We have very many concepts that as a nation will just let slide. Okay? So our leaders are supposed to be brilliant people who should explain to us exactly what they intend to do, their visions. Okay? So we cannot make a casual excuse for them that, well, he's a very good leader, but he's not a good public orator. He cannot properly explain what he plans to do. How can you plan to do something and not properly explain that thing? As a people, we should demand it from them. Explain to us how you intend to do this. You should practice over 3 to 4 years before you come with your proposal to us that I want to be your leader. You should practice your policies so that it becomes your second nature. When you come to the public, you are very comfortable to explain to them that this is what I have proposed and this is how I intend to do it. Okay, so we have to launch the campaign that we should vote on policy lines, okay, so that we don't have one very charismatic, mediocre, who is going to be our leader.
Sure.
Because the effect is such that our nation will continue to go backward. And we, the masses, we will continue to suffer. You know why it is dangerous? Because the man who has assumed powers has assumed certain privileges. Okay? So you know what happens? He does not pay for electricity anymore.
Sure.
He does not pay for the vehicle that he uses anymore. He does not pay to travel anymore. He pays for absolutely nothing. Everything is now free. So he lives in a cocoon. He does not understand your pain anymore. He does not. So you have to properly scrutinize this man to see if he's someone who actually loves his people. If he's someone who actually cares about the people. Is someone who actually means what he says. Okay, but you can only do so by examining him on the policies that is put forward in his manifesto. We have to take these manifestos very, very seriously, because we see governments come into power and forget entirely about the manifestos that they've given unto the people, because we did not ask them the question, how do you intend to go about this manifesto? You are not guaranteed a second term if you do not meet your manifesto promises. You are not guaranteed a second term. There is a case in Ghana, the president John Mahama, okay, he gave the people fanciful promises, and they voted him, he came into power. His first 5 years elapsed, and they came into another general election. And he wanted to come to the people again to explain, and they said, we are not going to listen to you, because you told us you are going to do X, Y, Z, and you failed woefully. Do you know why that happened? Because, number one, the population of Ghana is almost 70% literate. They can almost everybody in the country can read. Okay? So they understood his manifesto that he put forward, and they knew that he had failed because he had not met the manifesto promises. He tried to contest another elections, and he failed. Because the people were very categorical that if even we put someone who we do not know, we are going to vote for him because you have already failed by the manifesto that you gave to us. So we have to take ourselves seriously as a nation in the first place. That if you do not meet your manifesto promises, this is something that you say that you will do for us if we vote for you. We did not impose this on you. You said this, that I will do this for you. Okay? But this all has to stem from an informed position. We have to understand what they are putting forward. And we can only understand what they are putting forward by reading it. We read it, we comprehend, we understand it. After understanding it, we question it. So it is through these questions now that they can now explain to us in clear and unambiguous terms what they intend to do, so that when they assume power and they fail, we vote them out. First, I have to make this clear. This is this should now stray a little bit from the program. We have a national constitution which prescribes that the term for each president that assumes power that we vote for is 5 years. After the 5 years elapses, we go into another general election. We have never in this country, it is not in our constitution, that a president is supposed to go for 10 years. It is not. Otherwise, we would not have our general elections. Okay, every president is supposed to run for 5 years. And if he fails, we should vote him out. Sorry, not for day. Sorry that I have to use local language. Yes, okay, so we should not sorry for our leaders and say, okay, let's continue to. Our lives will not be made better. Okay. Only the lives of certain individuals will improve if we continue to show mercy to leaders who have failed. Okay? We have to make sure that we hold them to the promises that he made to us. If you fail, you have failed. Once you have failed, we know what happens to people who have failed. Okay? Once you have failed, you give way for the next person who has a brilliant plan. If he comes and he fails, we change him also. Because this is what our constitution enables us to do. We go and exercise our right of franchise. We vote. If it were the case that we are supposed to run a 10-year term, we don't have to organize elections. We'll just leave you run your 10-year term. Okay? But you are supposed to run 1 term of 5 years, which you have done. And we have to assess you as a people as to whether you've passed or you failed. How can we do so? It is when we understand your manifesto promises. Okay, so when we now look at it and we say, okay, Mr. Man, you've not even reached 50% of your manifesto promises. What do you now want to come and tell us?
Okay.
It's like we are in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Yeah.
You know, we've promised to stay faithful to each other. And then by some accident, your girlfriend catches you with another woman. And you want to now start come and explain, I still love you. It is the work of the devil. You know what my grandfather used to say?
Yeah.
As long as you have been caught once, you'll be caught again. Okay, so you don't make room for that kind of excuse. You cut the person off immediately. If we as a citizenry start to be ruthless, especially given our assessment of the manifestos of these leaders, once we assess it and we find out that you've not achieved what you promised that you are going to do for us, we cut you off, we bring someone else in. They are definitely going to take us seriously. Okay. And we will see this country, the natural effect is that we will see the country move forward. Because the next leader that will come will say, these people, if you don't work for them, they will eventually cut you off.
Okay, Lawyer King, that's awesome. And we just want to take a little break and we'll come back. And listeners, you can make a comment on our Facebook, and when we come back, we're going to read and check and see whether there is any comments in our Facebook or YouTube.
So during this election, that's not an option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for see vote without violence. All we want for see now. All we want for see vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for see vote without violence. All we want for see. All we want for see vote without violence. Now not the time we for better we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, that's not an option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for vote without violence. All we want for see now. All we want for vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for vote without violence. All we want for see. All we want for see vote without violence. Now not the time we for better we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, that's not an option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for vote without violence. Till the end they say all we want for vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for vote without violence. Now not the time we for better we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, that's not an option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. Now not the time we for better we country. We for come together as a family. Live in peace and harmony. So during this election, Feds not to option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. Now not the time we for better we country. We for come together as a family. Live in peace and harmony. So during this election, Feds not to option. During this election, we don't want no tribal division. All we want for see. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. Vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. Till the end they say. All we want for sin. Vote without violence.
Welcome back, our respectable listeners. Thank you for taking part and listening to us. Election coverage for 2023. We want to look at somebody commented on the APC Constitution and Manifesto, and let's just look at it and see how we can be able to discuss one or two. Yeah. Of course, the APC, the manifesto contains about 10 priorities, and one of it has to do with build one nation, rebuilding national unity and cohesion. Yeah. So, Lawyer King, what is your take on this as one of the manifesto from the All People Congress?
Oh, okay, so that is a very important pillar in their manifesto. So this is why I was saying, as an electorate, we need to study the manifestos of these political parties and ask them the question: how do you intend to achieve that particular policy? So, for instance, now they want to have national cohesion. They are proposing national cohesion. They are proposing that we should all come together in unity and harmony as a nation. That is absolutely the right thing to do, because over the past couple of years, we've seen that so much division has been the case in this country. And it is so bad that those who are supporting the APC will think that those who are supporting the SLPP are their enemies, and those who are supporting the SLPP will now think that those members of the APC are the enemy. And this has all stemmed from the fact that we've seen political prisoners, people who go to jail because of their political leanings, and we see the heavy-handedness of the police on one side of the political spectrum, especially when it comes to members of the opposition. And because of this, a divide has been created between the two sides. It is now even the case that
for even members of the opposition to go into the strongholds of the members of the ruling political party, their own strongholds and regional areas to do their campaigns. It is quite difficult for them to do so because they now see them as the enemy. They see them as violent people. They see them as people who do not have any tangible message to bring forward to them. And so we see as one of the pillars in the manifesto of the APC that they say this is one of the things that they want to address, to make sure that as a nation we all see ourselves as one, okay? That we all work together in unity and harmony. That is very, very brilliant. But like I say, we have to ask them how you intend to achieve this. Because even if I ask my nephew who is in GSS 1, that what in the instant case that we have a divided nation, what would you ask a political party to put in their manifesto? They will tell you that they will ask for national cohesion, will ask for unity, will try to develop programs to foster peace and unity across the country. But how? So in addressing the question of how is where the mastery is where we know that this person is really serious about this particular rubric or area or points that he has put in his manifesto. Because once you explain, and I am convinced that as a matter of fact, the plan to achieve this particular rubric or points in your manifesto, it is achievable, then I know that as a matter of fact, this is the way to go. This is something that we can do as a nation. We have to forget about all the political tensions between Mr. X and Mr. Y, and we all see ourselves as one. Okay? So in response to that question, even though that one looks very, very good, but we need to understand how they intend to do it. Okay? So all of the manifestos will be full of very brilliant ideas. Okay? Very brilliant points. Very brilliant suggestions and policies. But at the end of the day, are they able to achieve these things? What are the policy framework that we will see to actually implement these things, for them to actually come to life? Okay, so this should be our concern as a people.
Okay. And again, I just wanted to comment on the SLPP manifesto on the #1 pillar. They stated feed saloon. You know, they say it's an initiative to boost agricultural productivity, to ensure food security and inclusive economic growth. That's what it stated. So how can you, what's your comment on this?
Yes, so it still boils down to the question of how. Because this is one of the hailing points. When I say hailing, it has been a point in almost all the manifestos that we've seen in the history of this country, that we need to develop agricultural productivity so that we can be self-sufficient, so that we can feed ourselves. But we have not been able to achieve it. So it's not only for these political parties to put it in their manifesto. It's for them to be able to show us how they want to do it. The plan should be clear and concise. Even a blind man, when you explain to him, he should be able to understand that, oh yes, this person should be able to achieve this one. Because the plan to achieve it is very, very clear. It's very, very clear. But we keep seeing these fanciful things over and over again. It's a matter of semantics. They just change the language a little bit. Say, from food security to agricultural productivity. We are all saying the same thing. Okay? We are all saying the same thing at the end of the day. But it is how. So all of these things in these manifestos, they are quite brilliant. The people who sat down to develop these manifestos are very, very brilliant people. So they should be able to tell whosoever the flag bearer is, they should be able to coach him to tell him exactly how to implement these things. Because as the electorate, we are concerned about the how. We are concerned about the final implementation of these very beautiful ideas in the manifestos.
Yeah, and so since we've read one of the pillars from the SFPP and the APC, now, Lawyer King, this is a question now. So how do you think political party manifesto can accurately represent the actions and the policies that will be implemented when, let's say, for instance, a political party happens to be elected in government?
Yes, I think I have shed light a little bit on this one. All these points we see in the manifestos are what will be developed into policies, are what will be developed into governance policies that will serve as a guideline for the government to work against these particular policy areas. So, for instance, like I mentioned earlier, we had the free quality education agenda, which was captured in the manifesto of 2018 of the current president. And we saw that when he came to power, he immediately launched a policy program for that particular one. We saw how they roll out the policy. We saw that kids that were going to school in the primary and secondary sectors stopped paying fees. But what we could not see is the area of how it was translated such that we have quality education. Okay, so give the free education, one would say it's quite easy. All you need to do is to announce to the kids that you don't have to pay fees. Tell the parents you don't have to pay fees for your kids who come to school at primary and secondary school categories. Okay, but for you to know that the quality aspect of this particular program is not working, please identify one member of this government whose kid attends any one of the public schools. You will not see a single member of government whose child is attending a public school where they benefit from the free and quality education program. Because even they themselves do not believe that the program has the quality aspects of it. Okay, so they send their children to private schools to attain quality education, while it is the children of the masses who attend the public schools that lack the quality that they say that they put in their manifestos. So, you know, how it actually translates from the manifesto into reality should be our concern. So today the topic has been really, really apt, especially given our context as a nation. As a people, we must concern ourselves with studying the manifestos of these political parties. Study them such as become your second nature. When you wake up in the morning, you say, okay, this president said that he should be able to do X, Y, Z under this timeline. By this time, he should have completed this particular manifesto promise. So when he fails in that regard, we call his attention and say, oh, you said that you will pass this particular bill before this time, but we've not seen you do so. You said that you will achieve this particular aim before this time, but you've not do so. You've not done so. What is actually happening? Okay, so when we start taking them to task from an informed position, then we will start seeing that our nation is moving forward for the greater good.
Okay, so thank you. Lawyer Emmanuel King is a speaker for today's topic on how you read the manifesto of a political party or candidates. Listeners, as we are very close to the time, you can send in your comments on our Facebook page and YouTube, then we can read through your comments. Lawyer King, we actually love we're trying to get Mr. Aruna like also give his own and insights on the topic, but we have network problems. So I think you can step in all of the questions, and we are almost at the end of the program. So one of the questions again, as we discuss on this, what are actually the, like I asked you just now, maybe it's good we actually, political parties, it's good they actually educate, they give education on their manifestos to their political parties. Because as it is now, our country, we have actually loyalist supporters to these political parties, which they intend to ignore whatever thing their manifesto say. So it serves as a kind of, actually, like you did mention earlier, there should be a campaign on that, to actually educate the people on policy stuff. So what can you say? What message can you tell politicians about their manifestos, so that they themselves can see it as a reason for their supporters to have time to read their words?
Okay, so this is quite simple. I have shed light on the fact that we have different demographies of voters. Okay, so the political aspirants, the political parties should concern themselves at this stage with those voters who cannot read and write. Okay, we have a country in which we know that we have a very high rate of illiteracy. A lot of people did not go to school, so they cannot read the English language. But someone who can read the English language can translate it to them in their local language, and they will understand. Because of course, everybody is born with common sense. Okay, so these political leaders who have put forward these manifestos should endeavor for their message to go down to the last voter in the village. Okay, we know that predominantly in our provincial areas, people speak their local languages. Okay, so they should have a team of media experts and publicity secretaries and outreach officers who now go to these places and explain the major components of these manifesto policies, so that the people understand clearly what they intend and what they promised to do for them when they come and assume the reins of political power. Because at this stage, all that you see in these manifestos are just promises. Okay? So it is only when they take on government that they can turn these promises into policies that they will work on to develop the country and to make the lives of the electorate, the masses, better. Okay? To make Sierra Leone an enviable state of the world. Okay? Because it has been too long that Sierra Leone has been crippling. It has been too long. So the flag bearer aspirants, the political parties, they also have a duty. They have a duty to encourage even those members of their political parties who are educated and can read these manifestos. They have to encourage them to read, because some people are disinterested. He will say, well, this is my political party. If even they put an animal, I will still vote for my political party because it's my political party.
Sure.
Okay, but that should not be the case. Even though it's your political party that you subscribe to, you should be able to understand the policies, the ideologies that your political party projects. Because maybe as a person, these are not the ideologies that you stand for. These are not the policies that you stand for. Because as individuals, we all have certain things that we actually stand for. So if your own personal goals do not align with the goals of your political party, you have to make that known. You cannot support someone blindly, because it will be detrimental even to your own interest. as human beings, the very first interest you should seek is your personal interest. So you have to make sure, after studying these manifestos, you see how you fit into that particular context, how you will enjoy growth as a result of that particular manifesto. Okay? So even though as in the electorate we have a duty, but also the political parties, the aspirants of these political parties also have a duty to make sure they sensitize the public about the provisions in their manifestos. And also, we are looking forward to political debates, because it is through this means, this is the principal means through which these manifestos are explained to the general public. You know, when it's time for political debates, everyone is glued to your radios and televisions and whatsoever means of communication to which they can follow these debates. Okay? So this keen interest should not only stop at following these debates, you should also channel your questions to the moderators and say, okay, please ask the political aspirants these particular sets of questions with regards to your manifestos. And you can only do so when you may have studied these manifestos. So we actually look forward to the political parties and the aspirants to avail themselves to these debates and explain to us in simple and concise terms exactly what they've put in their manifestos, so that those who are undecided at this point can now make a decision that this is the political party that I want to follow because of the number of things that they've put in their manifesto.
Okay, so thank you, Lawyer King, for that. Yes, there is a need for even the candidates or the aspirants to have a careful look at the manifestos, because, like you mentioned earlier, some of these manifestos are being put by some other people else. You know, they write very good English and very good words. So you as aspirants, it's necessary for you to have a look at it before it reaches the people. So listeners, we are going on a break. Stay connected, as we'll soon come back and then try to wrap up the program.
We want for sin, all we want for sin. TD and they say, all we want for sin. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Now not the time we for better, we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, that's not to option. During this election, we don't want to tie by division. All we want for see, vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. TD and they say, vote without violence. Vote in peace. Vote without violence. TD and they say, all we want for sin. Vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. TD and they say, all we want for sin. Vote without violence. All we want for sin. All we want for sin. Vote without violence. Now not the time we for better, we country, we for come together as a family, live in peace and harmony. So during this election, let's
welcome back to the program, Election Coverage 2023. We want to continue with our speaker, Lawyer Emmanuel King. Listeners, like we said, you actually have to pay attention, and we are encouraging you to also participate by making your comment on our Facebook page or the YouTube. In as much as we're discussing this important topic today, have you read the manifesto of your political party or your candidates? So, lawyer, as we are wrapping up the program, I want you to look at these questions and quickly before we wrap up the program. How can voters hold politicians accountable for the promises they made in their manifestos after they have been elected?
Yes, so this is quite simple. I think I've spoken to this one, but let me speak to it again. Okay, our election cycle comes every 5 years. Okay, it is by the constitution of this country that when once we've elected the president, he serves 1 term of 5 years. So you voted him on the basis of his manifesto, the promises that he made. I am going to do X, I am going to do Y. Okay, that same individual has the opportunity to continue in governance. So he will have to come to you again to ask for a fresh mandate to continue in governance. What you now do to hold him accountable for the promises that he made is to assess the extent to which his manifesto promises were achieved. If, as a matter of fact, he did not achieve his manifesto promises, he did not meet these promises that he made to you, you now have a duty, a very simple one, to go to the ballot box and make a protest vote. You did not address the issues that you promised, that you said you would in your previous manifesto. So I am voting for someone else's time. This is the only way that you can hold political leaders accountable. It is the only way, as a voter, it is the only way. Because, you know, our presidents have immunity. Why is the president of the country? You cannot sue him. You cannot take him to court for a manifesto promise. You cannot even take him to court for criminal offenses. Not to even talk of manifesto promises. Okay? So you have to wait for the next election cycle and tell him plain to his face that now that your mandate has expired, I am not going to renew it because you did not meet your previous manifesto promises. You have to take me seriously. Because I do not have the time to go and assume that office. I am not vying for the office. But you said that you had the time, and you had the means, and you have the technical know-how to lead this nation, to make our lives better, to move us forward. But you have failed to do so because you did not meet your manifesto promises. So I will not vote for you. It's as simple as that. So this is your number one regret. Exactly how you take them to task in terms of accountability.
All right. Thanks for that select answer. And again, in as much as you're talking about accountable to these presidential candidates or politicians, and again, one might ask a question of looking at the manifesto of certain political parties that is ruling the country, and in some cases they fail, or they did not fulfill their promises. How can you say about the manifesto and the person himself? But I don't know if you get me clear. What I mean here is the person actually presented a very good manifesto to the people, and he was voted in, and the time expired, and he did not achieve a lot of what he stated in the manifesto. So how can you assess the person's manifesto and his personal?
So this is also a very interesting question. I now understand you clearly. So you have a term of 5 years. All the promises you make in this manifesto have a timeline. They have a timeline. You have 5 years. You are not going to put in your manifesto a plan that should take 15 years to achieve, because you only have 5 years. So you are going to put in your manifesto a plan that is achievable in 5 years, because you cannot come and tell me
that I was not able to achieve this particular manifesto promise because I did not have enough time. You should have taken that into consideration. The ordinary contemplation of that fact that I only have 5 years. So the plans that I present to these people are time bound. They are within this 5 years period. If I do not achieve them, definitely the people will see me as a liar and someone who has underachieved, and they will not vote for me again. So you make realistic plans that follow a specific timeline. So these are some of the things that the citizenry should look for when they study the manifesto of these political parties. You look for realistic plans that have a timeline that from 2023 June, so 2028 June, I should have been able to construct Lunge Bridge. So in your first day in office, we now see you turning the sword for Lunge office, for the Lunge Bridge. We now see whosoever the engineers and architects are to come and start working. We now see the floor people, the servicemen, everybody who is supposed to work in that particular project, they are now ready and they are working. We see them. They are working. The project is now going on smoothly. But you cannot continuously give excuses until your time comes to an end and you say, because of X, Y, Z reason, I was not able to achieve this particular manifesto promise.
Okay, so quickly, Lawyer King, so in that kind of scenario, how can you assess the political process of this country? Just quickly, we just have barely 3 minutes. So how can you assess the political process of this country when politicians have promised and they fail on the way? So how can you assess the political process?
This has been the case since we've had, since in post-war Sierra Leone. After the war, we've had Tijan Kaba as a president, we've had an Eskroma, and now we have Madabio. We have Tijan Kaba who ruled successfully for 2 terms, and Eskroma also did successfully 2 terms. We now have Madabio who has done only 1 term. Okay? We've seen that every single one of them have not been able to achieve much because they gave us fanciful promises which had timelines, but they were not able to meet the timelines because of X, Y, Z reasons that they put forward. As a people, we should not continue like this. We should not have our leaders tell us that I will do this for you, and then after 5 years they come back and say, oh, because of X, Y, Z reason, I was not able to do this for you, but please vote for me, let me continue. In my continuation, I will make sure that I do it. And at the end of his term, the second term, he was still not able to do it. So by taking ourselves serious, after you do your first term of 5 years, and we see that you are not able to do it, okay, please, Mr. Man, allow somebody else to come and try. This is what we should do as a people. Okay? When he was not able to do it, it matters not how plausible his reason is. As long as he was not able to do it, we give someone else a try.
All right, so thank you, Mr. I beg your pardon, Lawyer Emmanuel King, for speaking on this program today. And I also want to extend my thanks to the listener out there who are watching us. And this is your program, and this program is coming every Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. So stay tuned to TDN Africa Media every 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and you will have the program coming to you, election coverage. We want to end here as the time is already gone. Today, I'm your presenter, EZEKIEL Amadou KOROMA. We thank you all for watching and for your patience. Bye-bye.
It's not two option. During this election, we don't want to tie by division. All we want for see, vote without violence. Vote in peace, vote without violence. Till the end they say, vote without mercy, now all we want mercy. See the end, they say, all we want mercy. All we want mercy, all we want mercy. Now, not the time we for better, we can't.